Now welcoming to the podcast the guy who's to my best friend Conan before me. We'll not bring that up too much, but great Brian Pillman Jr.
How
Hey,
are you? How's everybody?
I'm doing great, but what I'm going to ask you about is with this outbreak of coronavirus. I'm sure you've all heard of it. It's this breaking story. They've kept it kind of under wraps in the press, but with the way it's affected the wrestling industry and even the WWE, does this sort of shit somehow maybe make you more inclined to work or to sort of look for work for one of these bigger companies, or do you still prefer it on places like up and coming work?
Yeah, so I guess your question is with this whole outbreak, does it incentivize me to want to sign a bigger deal, to sign
Yeah,
something more consistent? So that's definitely a big thing that I've looked into, especially when you consider how this has affected our livelihoods as professional wrestlers on the independent scene. Um, it's kind of hard to keep going, right, when you don't have that extra cushioning, that contract in the background to help you out. So um, it's one of those things where maybe I should start looking to expand my career and sign with a bigger company. But at the same time, a lot of those freedoms, a lot of those things I enjoy about being on the indie scene have been a huge positive. Like my whole career has been going amazing. I can't stress how important Major League Wrestling was, and highlighting my career in a positive light, and not letting me, you know, collect dust and hide behind the scenes and stuff. And so that nature, I've been able to get out there, get in a ring, get the experience I need in front of real life crowds, international crowds, and it's been a beautiful thing to see.
but you're one of those guys, a lot like Killer Cross, because I'm 35 right now, and I know what you're going to say, but you barely look 32. But I've been watching since 1990, and I always can tell who's got it and who doesn't. And you look at people like Killer Cross, he's got it, and I do think you're one of these guys that just has like you've got the personality factor on top of the fact that you can actually wrestle. So you're just like this guy's fucking cool. He's not some geek who got into the
Yeah,
industry. He's a cool guy.
yeah. So yeah, that's one of the things where it's like, were you comparing me to Killer Cross?
Well, I would put you in the same group as him. Like this is one of the guys to look for.
Absolutely. And I'm just kind of getting started and creating my own mystique, something sort of akin to what he's built for himself, because he is one of those guys that you look at him and it's like, okay, we got to have him. We got to have him on this show. We got to have him in this capacity. And that's what it's all about. It's all about being undeniable to the point where a company can't realistically say, we can live without him. You want them to not be able to live without you, be undeniable. And that's what I'm all about. I'm following in my father's footsteps, but I'm also creating my own path in this business.
But that actually brings me to something I'd love to ask you about because when I first heard that you were getting into wrestling, I thought, don't even try because your dad is so beloved and respected by fucking millions of people. Just so happens it turned out that you're really good at it too.
Yeah.
But another person who's son of a famous wrestler getting into it is David Benoit, and I'm not trying to like put words in your mouth, but when you heard about that he was getting into the business and training, what was your first take on that?
Originally, I was, very supportive of David, and I had heard his story. And having trained with Lance, I know he had visited Lance for a few weeks to kind of get his feet wet. I wish the best for David. I really do. But at the same time, um, the business is not going to come and get you. You got to go out and take the business. You got to go out and grab it by the horns. And I think David is just a little too afraid right now because he's not sure what would happen and how he could parlay this into a career of wrestling, and it is hard. I come from a unique situation, but his situation is even more unique. His situation is even more, filled with those long feelings of resentment and stuff towards his father and the things that his father did. So it's going to be hard for him to break into the business while using his name and doing it for his father. But at the same time, if he did that with unwavering hard work, if he did that with the absolute all of his heart that he could put into wrestling, I think the wrestling community would take him in, and I think he would be able to do something with his life. But because he's afraid to go all in, he's afraid to really quit his job and really sell his soul. You really have to sell your soul to this business, You're talking about a guy like Vince McMahon that runs the WWE. He wants to hire soldiers. He wants to hire guys that are willing to go to battle for him and to put their neck on the line. And so if you're half-assed into wrestling and you're not all the way in, you're going to have a hard time succeeding, whether you're David Benoit or Brian Pillman Jr. or Scott Hall's kid. You got to be all in, and this is a business you got to really sell your soul to.
Well, that then brings me to the next sort of so-called scandal, I'm saying in air quotes, is that WrestleMania has gone from the stadium to the empty performance center. This, for some reason, has really got a lot of the fans talking it up big time online. Because for me, I think at the end of the day, it's just the show. Like, as important as money is for the fans, at the end of the day, it's about the matches and the performers. So, what's your take on WrestleMania coming live from the Performance Center?
It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard. I personally do not connect with wrestling if there's no fans there. I have a hard time connecting with wrestling. To me, a lot of the wrestling that I watch and a lot of what I base my art off of is definitely interacting with the crowd and really feeling that energy of the crowd. So my hats are off to all the performers who get to go out there and continue to wrestle, because still it is a privilege to be able to wrestle right now. We have a lot of built up adrenaline. We have a lot of built up frustration due to this virus, and a lot of these athletes on the WWE, they get to go out there and they get to wrestle with their friends in the wrestling family, the WWE family. They're going to put on a hell of a show, and I wish I could be a part of it. But right now, it's just time to isolate it and to get healthy. And I think this will all blow over. This is just a really bad season. This is the flu season. A lot of people are getting sick. They don't know what it is. Who knows how this virus came to be? All I know is where it came from and what we can do to stop it. And that's just doing our best, staying away from each other.
And weirdly, this is actually going to be one of the more watched WrestleManias ever, because now everybody wants to see this.
Yeah.
So in a way, the coronavirus helped the WWE network.
Yeah, in a way, it's going to create more online viewers and stuff, and hopefully the independent scene can get a little bit of that kickback too, because so many shows are being canceled. It's unreal.
Yeah, but I can see it being because they're saying as we're getting towards the summer that this is going to get helped, and they're going to start being able to do shows again. So I can see guys like you having an insanely busy fucking August to September, October of pretty much making like hundreds of thousands.
Sorry, come again?
Yeah. No, I'm saying it's just that I think that as this shit starts to clear up, because to me, I think the media is kind of overblown it. Not that it's nothing.
Yeah, no, it's been tough. It's been tough.
Yeah, but I think as we get into the summer, that's when the shows are going to start happening. There's going to be more bookings. There's going to be a lot of fucking money being earned.
Yeah.
But I got to ask you this question about AEW wrestling, because our mutual friend, Disco Inferno, as I like to call him, he's always very outspoken about AEW. And
yeah.
On one hand, I do think he's got a great point in that I've heard that they're going to do their TV tapings from empty arenas for the next, which seems like that's a lot of fucking money being spent with no income. So do you think in a way that AEW are not as successful as they are portraying themselves?
No, I think AEW is doing a great job right now. I think they're pushing forward. They're pushing forward their new style. So they're doing a lot, and they're doing a lot behind the scenes that a lot of people don't see. Their marketing is impressive as all hell when you consider the modern day fan and people who get on the internet more than watch TV. So they're really dialing in on that young audience, and I can say a lot to that because I am sort of a newer fan when it comes to wrestling. I didn't grow up watching it so much, because it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth,
Yeah.
because I was like, oh, that should be me up there, or that should be my dad, but he's not here right now. So it was really hard for me to finally accept wrestling back into my life. But by the time I started doing that, getting into my 22, 23 years old, started thinking about becoming a wrestler, it was the Young Bucks, and they were in Ring of Honor, and it was Cody wrestling in Japan, and Cody was wrestling Okada and stuff. So I was starting to see all this New Japan, sort of the precursor to AEW, the Ring of Honor and the New Japan partnership, and the Bullet Club and the Bucks, and so all that awesome stuff I'm a fan of. I kind of grew up as a fan of that. So to be more or less peers with those guys, and to have shared a locker room with Cody a couple of times in the Young Bucks, it's an amazing feeling.
How is it for you as someone who works in the business that when you see stuff like, not that we're specifically targeting anyone, but when you see names like Brad Shepard and Sean Ross Sapp and Dave Meltzer, etc., writing clickbait headlines, does that piss you off as an insider?
It depends. Like, what are you saying? Like when they use insider words?
Stuff like where see, this is something I don't get with Dave Meltzer. Is that just say he hears what the SummerSlam main event is going to be? Well, he'll report that in February.
Yeah.
Yet with stuff like AEW, he knows exactly what's going on, and he's saying nothing. So it's almost like there's biased reporting. It's been on that sort of
I think that Dave is definitely just like everybody else. We're all consumers, right? We're all consumers of the product. We're all consumers of wrestling, and if what Dave consumes just happens to be what AEW is creating, then maybe they're honest. Maybe he's onto something. Maybe he's on to the state of the art delivery method of pro wrestling. And I think that's why he's such a big fan of it, because Dave kind of moves with the times. Dave understands how houses draw and how shows are bought and sold and stuff. So he knows what's drawing. He knows what's working. And right now, AEW is working.
Let me ask you a question. Brother, how annoying is that when people say, "Let me ask you a question" in an interview?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you're going to ask a question anyway, so.
Yeah, it's just, I should have, I was drinking last night, but whatever. But I gotta say that I love Killer Cross, and I've interviewed Killer Cross, and of course he signed with NXT. But when he did that, a lot of the internet people kind of gave him shit because they were saying, "Oh, why would he sell out for the money? Why would he do this when he could have had gone to like AEW for the creative control or whatever?"
Yeah.
But but I think that's not fair for outsiders to say so, because like I'm not the one who's fucking getting bumped around the ring.
Yeah.
So the question I would have for you is, what's your take on when these fucking marks, as I like to call them, bash wrestlers for somehow thinking of the future instead of, oh, I want to fucking do a 450 off a ladder through a metal spike for $10?
What was the question? I'm sorry, I couldn't understand.
Sorry. So my question is, what's it like for you as an industry insider when you've got these fans who bash the wrestlers for thinking about the money?
Oh yeah. So first and foremost, we got to do our best. We got to make money. It's one of those things where you can't bash the wrestlers, right? It's like we have a lot of people take for granted their 9 to 5. They get a guaranteed paycheck every 2 weeks, so they can say what they want, they can talk all the crap they want, but at the end of the day, we got to make a living. We got to do what we got to do. And this whole government shutting everything down is really hard. It's really hard on a lot of us right now. So it's going to be one of those things where the strong will survive, and the people that stay up to date on their social media, doing podcasts like this one, really communicating with their community, it's going to make it all work out.
Yeah, and my whole thing is just like, if someone, like, from doing this podcast, I can make between 3 to a low 4-figure income from it every month.
Yeah.
But if somebody said to me, "Hey, I want you to fucking go do a Disco Inferno watch along show for more money," it's like, that's what I'm going to do. Although, if you're up for doing a Disco Inferno watch along show, let's have some talks.
Yeah, why not?
But I gotta ask you, of course, I think it was yesterday, the day before, the legendary Jushin Liger was announced for the WWE Hall of Fame. I remember seeing your dad wrestle him back, I don't know I can't remember what year I'm hungover. And it blew my mind, because I was so used to the Hulk Hogan's and the Warriors and shit, and then your dad is in there doing this mind-blowing shit. And of course, Jushin Liger obviously deserves to go into the Hall of Fame. But do you have any sort of inkling or insight on when your dad is going to go into the Hall of Fame?
I'm not sure. I actually have not been. It's been a while since I've talked to him about it. We have talked in the past. There's definitely been some words going back and forth between the WWE and my mother and stuff. So there's definitely the chance of that happening. But like when exactly it happens, I cannot for sure say that. But hey, it'll be soon.
Your dad deserves it for the fact that he could wear tiger skin trunks and look tough. Like, that alone is a Hall of Fame worthy wrestler.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you seem to be kind of like around my you seem to be kind of like around my age, but with a lot of the video games get out there, do you think in a way that the computer games have made wrestling bigger, or do you think it's had kind of a more negative effect?
I think video games are a great crossover into wrestling. To be honest, I think that it has made more people interested in pro wrestling because they can play the games, and it kind of confirms their fantasy, right? They're able to go through and see all the moves be done on their own terms.
But then, would you say that, because anytime I play one of the games, it's always a fucking, right, let's 4 of us have a fucking TLC match, or so my thing is, do you think it sometimes makes fans more inclined to like crazy spots and bumps and gimmick matches instead of storytelling?
You mean this, like the style of today?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think guys can get away with doing a lot less if they wanted to. There's a huge problem right now with a lot of people repeating stuff and more or less throwing in action just for the sake of action. Now, there's a lot of wrestlers that are great at that, but there's also a lot of wrestlers that aren't. So it's very easy. It's very apparent to see when someone like Will Ospreay is going out there and doing and playing his kind of music. He's playing his kind of set list. And then you see another guy go out there with half the talent, half the athletic ability, but try to do similar things, and it's just, people got to watch out. People got to be different. People got to adhere to their characters,
Yeah, it would, but then at the same time, if you look at someone like Disco Inferno, not that I'm trying to trash talk him.
Yeah.
But
we're always here to trash talk Disco, don't worry. We're all on the same page here. Nobody's not trying to trash talk him.
But do you think that Disco Inferno, like, all joking aside, do you think he's quite underrated as a performer?
Underrated? I don't know. I think Disco knows. Yeah, I guess underrated is a good word. Yeah, I think Disco. I think he knows what he contributed, and I think he knows his strengths and weaknesses, and anything else is just him bullshitting people. But no, I think Disco is a very smart guy. I've actually come to really like Disco in my years of growing up in the business. He's very straightforward. He's to the point. He understands the business, and he's also got a good relationship with all the guys he worked with. So he was kind of that guy that, he was kind of a funny guy that wanted to get by on doing what he could do well and not have to go out and break his fucking back, and it's a smart move. But at the same time, in today's world, would he be able to keep up? I don't know. He looks like he stays in shape. He looks like he's quite an athlete, so he might be able to keep up, but who knows?
Well, Disco knows because he's got a big nose.
Nice.
No offense, Glenn. Big nose. Listen, Brian, I just want to thank you so much for your time. We're running up on the clock here, but
hey, thank you, appreciate it.
Can I ask one favor from you just before you go?
Yeah, for sure.
I know what you're going to say, that Keeping It 100 is the biggest and greatest podcast ever, and that you discovered it specifically through the YouTube channel that I run for them, and that's very kind for you to say so. You're a great guy. But Conan, that son of a fuck, refuses to do this podcast for me, no matter what I do for him. He's like, you're a dick, bro, I'm doing your fucking podcast. So anytime I get some sort of wrestler on or anyone from the industry who knows him, I ask them to cut a quick to short promo on him to try to convince him to come onto the podcast. So would you mind?
Yeah, you just want me to cut a promo on him?
Yes, please.
All right, Disco. Time's up. You've sat on your ass for far too long. You want to come on the podcast. You want to get on here with none other than Hughezy, my dude. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Hughezy has been going strong. We've had a great time here with Adam Hughes, talking about wrestling, talking about the modern day, talking about AEW and how have they changed the game for the good and how have they changed it for the worse. I'm sure you'd like to chime in on that, wouldn't you, Disco? You seem to have so many opinions. You seem to be able to back them all up with a tiny bit of logic in your peanut-sized brain. But hey, you got a reason for talking. I got a reason for talking back. So why don't you come up on this podcast and we'll throw some ideas around.
Thank you very much, Brian. But listen, Brian, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Thank you.
I'm just so glad that I got you when I did, because by 2022, you're going to be a millionaire and no one's going to be able to get their fucking hands on you. So that means I'll be re-releasing this in 2022 to cash in.
Well, hey, I appreciate you. Thank you for having me today. It's been a lot of fun.
You take care, stay safe, and wash your hands.